to change it suddenly, it was a shock for everyone in my surrounding, family, friends, colleagues. You would face this resistance from everyone, and nobody was there to support you. What are the relationship between my faith and permaculture? How my faith is teaching me about how to be the best steward in this earth. My teacher used to say, you can solve all the world problems in a garden. I would say you can solve all the world problem when you cultivate water.
Welcome to a new episode of the Food Forest podcast. Today we have somebody with us, Mohammed Erribani from Morocco, and he's done crazy restoration work all across the world. He trained under Jeff Lawton, has worked in very drought-ridden places, for example, Burkina Faso, Yemen, but also done the rehabilitation of river systems in India, for example, has created more than hundreds of vegetable gardens, did a lot of design work, and is currently also regenerating his own farm in Morocco, very close to Casablanca and Rabat. Welcome, Mohammed. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you.
Where are you currently?
Well, I'm located in my own farm. It's 2 hectares, 1,000 square meter piece of land that I'm developing for the past 5 years, and it's 1 hour from Rabat, 1 hour and a half from Casablanca.
And you are living there yourself? Is it your goal to become self-sufficient there?
Well, yeah, I'm trying to move here 100%, but I'm expecting a boy by next August, so we had to be closer and be in the city for a while for the past 2 months. But yeah, I'm living here. Oh, thank you very much. I'm here like from Saturday to Wednesday, and we have to go to the city before Thursday and on Friday. To be self-sufficient is a really big challenge. I don't believe anymore that anyone can be self-sufficient by himself. It's very, very challenging. We try. I'm trying. We tried it. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of not struggle, but you need people around you where you can help each other to be self-sufficient.
It's like the difference between independence and interdependence, right?
Exactly. I believe that self-sufficiency can be realized only when you have people helping you and helping them reaching or achieving that.
Yeah. You haven't always been a permaculture designer or a food forester because you began your professional life as a chef. What was the turning point that led you to leave the kitchen behind and dedicate yourself to permaculture?
Well, even if I was a chef, honestly, I wasn't satisfied with what I was doing. It was a great way to make a living, to make an income, but I wasn't satisfied with what I was born to do. So I was looking for what I want to do actually, and one day I met with a friend, and he told me about the word permaculture, and I started researching and researching, and bam, that aha moment! I realized that's what I want to do, because I wasn't raised in a big city. I've been raised or grow up in a small city where everyone knows everyone else. We can just go, like, we can walk just by 2 kilometers and find farmlands, and we can give help to farmers, catch bird, barbecue some bird, swim in the river, and those the things that grow up. So that's what I want to do actually, is to be there again, is to be within those systems where one feels like within and belong to.
Sounds like paradise to me. And so you were working in your kitchen, you were researching about permaculture. How old were you back then?
Well, to 2011, it was, I'm 40 now, it's 2025. It's been 14 years now. So I was 26. Especially, it's very... Pardon?
A nice age to turn things around. You discovered life a little bit.
Well, it's difficult, because changing one's profession, especially if you have a stable job, if you have a job that is like long-term job, and to change it suddenly, it was a shock for everyone in my surrounding, family, friends, colleagues, and you would face that, how we call it, you would face this resistance from everyone, and nobody was there to support you, except Jeff Lawton, of course. He was giving me all the support, actually, and that's all you need. You need a dedication and a great mentor to achieve what you want to achieve, besides other stuff too.
Yeah. And you went all the way to Australia to train under Jeff Lawton?
No, I've never been to Australia. This is something maybe all Jeff's students, who worked with, like they were with him in a Zaytuna farm during whether in an internship or as volunteers, that's the way they gained trust with him, so that he can send them to different projects. I wasn't one of those, but we had a special relationship, and we used to meet once a year in Jordan, since the workload that I have, and you can't afford to go to Australia. If you go to Australia, you have to spend there at least a month or two, so that it's worth the trouble. And,
yeah. And so you've been to his place in Jordan, to the Greening the Desert Center?
Yes, I've been there like 7 or 8 times.
Nice. I've been there too. It's an amazing place.
Well, yeah, that's true. You can feel the energy of everyone who passed through that place, and all the people, all the projects, or everything, honestly. I had great memories with that place too.
What was the
actually, because it was the second place after Yemen. I went there like for my second for my second visit working with Jeff.
Yeah. If you've worked together with Jeff for a while, what is the most important thing, if you had to say one thing that really changed your mind? What has he taught you? The one thing that has really changed the way you look at life, at permaculture, at landscape designing?
Honestly, if you are speaking about lessons from Jeff, right? If there is something that I learned from Jeff, it wasn't from the classroom. It was while we are traveling together outside of the classroom or outside of work. When Jeff is in the zone, and when he's relaxing, and that's where I gain the most from him. Like those poem lessons, those great advices, that's what I consider the best that I got from Jeff, since we've been traveling a lot together. Yeah, lessons like how to understand paralanguage beyond what is being written in books or what have been documented. Pattern language is the key for a permaculture designer to understand, how landscape talks to the designer, how we can understand nature, and how we can go with the same flow with nature into making the best designs, so that we can reduce the pressure, and how to use in a better way the energy entering to any given system.
And how would you explain that pattern recognition to a listener to the Food Forest podcast? If it's the first time they hear the word pattern recognition, how would you explain that to somebody?
To be honest, I don't know how. It's something that you understand. Well, that to be frank, it's something that you get it, it's difficult to talk about, Even someone like Benoit Mandelbrot, he's a physician, and he's the first one who came up with the manifestation of what we can call, the golden ratio Fibonacci sequences. Just put it into computer, and we have like the Benoit Mandelbrot shape. You can Google it. It's mind blowing. You can just keep either zoom in or zoom out, and you keep getting the same shape and same fraction and same fractals. This is maybe the least that I can say about it, when it comes to visualization. But pattern language is a more subtle notion, is a more subtle subject that you either you get it or not. You can't try hard to understand it, but you get it when you allow yourself to understand it. You get it when you come across yourself, break down that ego, and you allow nature to allow you to discover it. It's not within you. It's something that one day you just understand it. From a very basic perspective, pattern language is the shape, the form in nature, circles, hexagonal forms, and the way that rivers are shaping the landscape, the way that winds are shaping the landscape, the way that erosion is shaping the landscape, waves in oceans and those really dendritic pattern of a tree from a root system or from its branches, the dendritic pattern of a watershed system to the brain, to the neurological pattern of our neurological system. It's very complicated. It sounds really complicated, but there is nothing as simple as pattern language when you click with it, when you understand it.
All right. So I think maybe the easiest way to then to explain it to the listener is, so you talk about the dendritic pattern. Dendros means tree. Then you have, like, for example, if you look at the leaf of the tree, there is a tree shape in the leaf. If you look at the river, it's mostly also like a shape of a tree because you have like the main branch and all the side branches. If you look at mountain areas, you have the same patterns. So it's mostly about recognizing these and seeing the connection between those.
Pretty much, that's part of the definition. As I told you, it's like permaculture. Everyone has his own definition of permaculture. It depends on his experience and design that he worked with, and the people that he met, and the climate zones that he did those design in. It's pretty much the same thing. Pattern is one of the greatest tools that allow us to practice permaculture and to like bring everything together, all the elements, all the component of any given site's design. The pattern language is the one that helps you make all the connections, put it in a mold. Yeah, that's the word that I was looking for, is molding the design. Pattern is the tool that helps you mold in your design.
Okay. On your journey, can you recall a moment that you were in the landscape somewhere and that you really had the revelation about observing a landscape? Because a lot of listeners to this podcast, they have their own terrain, or they want to start their own food forest or permaculture project or regenerative farm. Can you recall one of these moments you stood in the landscape and said, aha, wow, now I see it?
I don't know, honestly, when that happened the first time, because when you understand nature, when you allow yourself to be humble enough, I think that's the key word that every designer or everyone who want to get involved in this journey must have in mind, is humbleness. When you sit down, when you allow the system to talk to you and to reveal itself to you, that's when that moment happens. Otherwise, you cannot. You cannot speak with something or any given creature or living system, and you sounds like a master. You sounds like the one who knows everything. No, he would never. Any given system would never open enough to give you the tools to communicate with him, so that to know the exact strategies or techniques or design that would work for such system. This is how I see it. Maybe it sounds a little bit philosophical, but that's reality. Honestly, that's reality.
Personally, I think it's, if you look at the science and like recent Western science, we always have seen that science is something in a lab, and the person that is doing this experiment is not a part of it. But more and more scientists realize that the person that performs the experiment or interacts with it actually has a huge influence on that experiment. And so it's exactly what you've just been telling me, is that if you are in the landscape and you just think, I'm the master and I'm just going to pour concrete everywhere or just plant trees and without even thinking about it, then it's going to be a totally different interaction than if you would, like you say, open up, and then you will hear things you wouldn't otherwise hear. You might notice things you might otherwise don't notice. You might feel things if you walk with your feet on the ground. You might feel that, oh, this zone is much more compacted than this zone. And then because you open up, like you say, it talks much more and you will get much more information. That's beautiful.
Well, everyone got his share of knowledge, how to do things, technical stuff. I mean, all the tools. You can be the best person with all the tools, with all the know-how to fix things. But if the system doesn't allow that, you would never achieve like what are we trying to do with regenerative agriculture or system rehabilitation or deforestation, or even erosion is one of the biggest problems. So that's what I believe that we should focus on, because today we have all the tools, but what are the reasons why we are not fixing things, especially, with all the warnings coming from scientists regarding climate change and the direction where we are heading. There is something else that we should consider today while designing those systems.
Yeah. And you just touched a very important point about we seeing the warning signs and continuing into an extractive direction, or a direction that's very harmful to the planet, and so most of all also for ourselves and our kids. Do you see why this is happening?
Maybe one of the things here is or maybe the main thing is the way that humanity is chosen its path to live far from what is more spiritual or what is more beyond what is material. When you have high level consideration, you start giving importance to even the tiny little creatures rather than just human or what is material. When you are aware of high power, whatever anyone can name it, that value or that consideration gives you it just allows you to make consideration about any given living system. This is how I see it, and that's what draws me to permaculture the first time. We are human being, we are here, especially from my faith. What are the relationship between my faith and permaculture? How my faith is teaching me about how to be the best steward in this earth. I don't know how, but when I start learning about permaculture, I told myself, yeah, that's how we can be the best stewards in this earth. So maybe like what Masanobu Fukuoka said, it's not an environmental crisis, it's a spiritual crisis. The problem is within. It's not what is happening outside, is just the manifestation of what's going on within us. So yeah, that's one of the issues.
Yeah. And it's one of my favorite writers and farmers, Masanobu Fukuoka, from The One Straw Revolution and his other amazing books.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you when you say that the outer world is a reflection of the inner world. If you look, we are being very hard on ourselves, also very extractive on ourselves. If we feel pain, we're going to take a painkiller instead of looking at why does that pain exist or where does it come from. We're not looking at the causes. So yeah, it might be true. Do you think, because there are people in this planet who are like zero into spirituality, do you think it's possible to be a good forester or permaculturist without being spiritual? Do you think it's possible?
Well, I meet with a lot of people who are that way, but they are in their path to find out about their spiritual journey. Those people, they kept all the time an open door for what could happen. They never locked it or sealed it. I think I was a chef. I've never thought that I will be working in India for 10 years of my life, and that happened. Who? who believes that? You know, everything can happen. Yeah. I mean, as I said, I met with a lot of incredible people in my journey. You know, they weren't spiritual, but they were big-hearted, sound-hearted people, and they said, "Yeah, we keep the door, the window open for that path if they are, you know, if they are open to what would happen." They kept that window open.
Yeah, that's interesting. And in fact, I'm a very scientific person, and if you are a good scientist, you have to keep any door open. If you don't do that, you're a bad scientist. So you
Right.
always leave the possibility that this or that is a possibility, and that makes a great scientist because it also keeps you alert. It also keeps you open and see things that you might not have seen before. So yeah, and it's like you say when you meet people who have a good heart and are curious, that's already one of the most important things. You worked in India, you've restored watersheds. Can you tell me something about that? Did you like make rivers stream again?
Honestly, it wasn't us. We helped achieving that partially. Those people been there since 70s. Rajendra Singh is a great man. He's the waterman of India. He went there as a doctor, and he's been working on water since the 70s. I think 5 or 6 years back, we came across those folks, and we were interested with their work, and I suggested to my company that we have to approach those people, and if they need help, we have to give them a hand. So the company decided to give them funds to build 5 water structures that would cost something between $10,000 and $15,000, and that amount of
Okay.
money can change a lot of people's life. You know, they build a wall and they back water by like a kilometers and a half, and they store millions and millions of cubic meters of water, and that reflects in the end on the river system. So take for example Sarani River, Sarani, Sar AINI. They built, I think they built something between 600 and 800 structure in the watershed of that system, and now it's running all year round, which is incredible. It's incredible. I don't know any other NGOs or foundation or any entity who did that. So I was really impressed, and those people, they haven't given me hope that we can do the same thing in my country, where we are one of the countries that are affected by drought for several years, and we are in a vulnerable situation when it comes to water situation. And that exactly what happened with one of the foundations that I'm connected to here. We built the first water dam, and now we are planning to put the second one, and hopefully we can do the same thing as those folks have done. They were a great source of inspiration to me and for so many other people.
What type of water structures were they that they built? Were they dams? Because a lot of movement has been going on to now actually remove the dams, because dams are not always good for rivers. What are your structures?
Well, that's true. We are not speaking about mega dams. We are not speaking about huge dam that would stop the river flows. This NGO doesn't have the right to work on big rivers. If we take, for example, a river like Yamuna River or Sarani River, they are bigger. Sarani River is one of, I think, if I'm not lying, if I remember well, is one of Yamuna River's tributary. So even the tributary of one of the biggest river, they cannot interfere with. They have to work on the tributaries of the Sarani River. So when you work on the tributaries of the tributary, meaning that you are building only small check dams with 3 million cubic meters in a scale of big dams is nothing. So they built Johad. Johad is a big lake that is always near few wells, and Johad can collect hundreds and hundreds of cubic meters from rainwater. That's the second thing. Anicut, So Anikot is some sort of a check dam. It's built using concrete. And I think that these are the three main structures that they are building. But in permaculture, we are speaking about other few techniques like swells and stuff. But answer your question, it's not detrimental to the ecosystems. It's nothing has to deal with big dams.
Okay, because that's a thing that a lot of people get confused about because, for example, in Spain, they're removing a lot of dams, which is good to restore the rivers. But what we are doing in the permaculture movement, we're like making smaller dams that do permit migratory fishes to swim upstream, stuff like that, and have a fantastic impact on the water system. So I'm correct to say that mostly it's Andicut, Yohat, and check dams that you've been building.
Well, as I told you, we were not the ones who were building. I want to emphasize that. It's not us.
You helped.
We helped them build those, yes. And we learned a lot about the way they approach local communities. I don't know if we have the time to speak about all the details of their work or not, but briefly, we were into some places where we found ghost villages. There is nobody living in those villages. They migrated to the city because there's nothing. They come only during monsoon season to cultivate rice. And once the cultivation is finished, they go back to the city to work and live in slum areas until the harvest time. So what those people have done, when you put water back to the system, you can bring people back. So they start making 3 harvests a year: rice, wheat, and in like something like ragi, which is millet, in between. So those people start generating a good income, and they have water to cultivate some vegetables and start animal husbandry. So when you put water back to the landscape, you can solve so many issues. My teacher used to say you can solve all the world problems in a garden. I would say you can solve all the world problem when you cultivate water.
Yeah, where there's water, there's life. You are living in Morocco at this moment. I've traveled across Morocco. It's one of the most beautiful countries I've ever visited. But I also saw a lot of riverbeds that are totally dry in most of the months in the year. Only when there's like heavy rains, it has a flash flood. Do you see possibilities there to make these small adjustments to the river to make those rivers flow again and regreen Morocco?
Well, I hope so, because one of the reasons, the third reason why I get involved with this type of work is when I watched Leos Plato's big rehabilitation work in China, and I have that hope since that time. And when I started my journey, when I visited and when we worked with Tarun Bharaksang, my hope and my dream becomes more closer when I've seen that underground. Yes, why not? But it's not something that you would achieve by sleeping or by procrastinating. It's something that needs courage, and it needs something behind the horizon. People to know exactly the level of crisis where we are in. The association that I'm connected to called Ma Wanama, which is water and prosperity. We travel to the most affected area in the country. We just came back 2 weeks back.
Which one is that in Morocco?
It's an association.
Region? No, the most affected region. Where is that?
Well, take for example the region of Taza, Taza.
Yeah.
We drive 2 hours and a half on a dusty road to reach a village where there is no electricity, no water, no internet. They don't have water. You know, you witness the crisis, and that's like very common. We travel again to the area where the earthquake have hit. There is a huge crisis when it comes to water. There is a huge need, but we can. If we want, we can rehabilitate those river systems. But it's not something that would come between night and day. It's a long-term project, well connected to long-term projects. They, as you mentioned, you will take a painkiller pill and that's it. But what about the long-term solutions? What about the dealing with the source of the problem rather than dealing with the symptom? But always we have to keep hope, and inshallah one day we can demonstrate what is possible. But it's ridiculous. That's what is painful is that the solution is ridiculously simple.
Yeah, the solution is already there. We just have to implement it. What if the Moroccan king said, "Well, Mohammed, I really like the work you've been doing. You visited all these amazing places in India and other places in the world. I'm giving you unlimited funds. You can choose one riverbed that has been dried up. Go ahead. What would your plan of attack be?"
Oh man, I need to develop a team. The first thing, it's challenging. I need to establish an institute before we get into anything else. Because once you are on the ground, you can use just 10% of what you've been learning with permaculture. 10% or 90% is dealing with people. So you have to have a team who would, do some sacrifice and do all those things. The first thing we did in India, by the way, we established one site and we demonstrate to our company what is possible. The second thing was establishing an institute. So we trained 16 field manager, and those are the people who are taking like the responsibility today after we left the company. So yeah, I would establish an institute where we can teach people who are passionate about this. Second is to start reshaping the landscape. In the landscape, I would give you this information. This plateau budget was $250 million. The stadium that we are building for the World Cup 2030 will cost $450 million.
Wow, so we can do more than 2 Los Plateaus with that money.
Oh my goodness! So the stadium would be used only during 2030 World Cup, and that's it. But you can imagine what we can do with all that money. But yes, we have to keep hope. I believe that we can do something. Even if it's not achievable in our lifetime, but we have to make sure that we leave some pioneer behind us so that we can carry on the work.
Yeah, last year I visited Wes Jackson in Kansas from the Land Institute, the guy that co-created Kernza, the perennial wheat. And he said to me, "Well, Louis, if you are solving a problem that can be solved in your lifetime, you're not thinking big enough." So here you go.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, he's smart. That's wisdom.
Yes, definitely is. Yeah, he's already almost 90 years old, so he gathered a lot of wisdom over the years. So the king has given you a river, you started your institute, you shaked hands with a lot of villagers across the dry river, and then you're just gonna like check dam the hell out of that river. You're gonna like plant in dozens of check dams, anicuts or johats, whatever it's applicable to that specific context, just like to slow down the water and make it infiltrate. Would you need to plant a lot of trees while doing that?
Yeah, you gave really nice description to what could happen. The first thing is to slow down the movement of water. We slow it, spread it, sink it. That's the first thing. You can't think of anything else before that. Water is the first thing that we have to implement in the system. After choosing the right techniques for that appropriate context, the second thing is to do plantation, choosing the right species, because what we've seen in some areas, they have done a lot of plantation, but it was a disaster. Choosing the right species is crucial. And at the same time, you can establish food forests within those systems. You can establish something that would feed the people. And at the same time, providing something for animals, we can actually establish food forests that will provide food for people and at the same time for animals. We have here 450 different fruit trees, and we have trees that would feed our animals. We have goats, we have sheep, we have chickens, we have geese. Anyways, But we have to think with those systems, because if you don't provide for a shepherd, if you don't provide for his animals, the next day we'd find him, grazing his animals into those newly planted trees, and nothing had happened. And the big lesson is from Leo's Plateau. What they have done, they have given farmers money to buy fodder for their animals, so that they can keep them within their barn for
They don't
a
need the
period of
trees.
time, waiting for those trees to be established. That was smart. So
Yeah, very
if
smart.
we want to solve the problem, if you don't solve it in that dendritic pattern, the problem is branched. You solve one issue and the second and the third, and you keep following those problems, surveying them, solve them. And after 4 or 5 years, you would have really nice systems. You would have productive systems. You would have healthy systems that would be viable economically, socially, environmentally, whatever, you name it. So again, this is just theory, but we need people who would implement those ideas onto the ground. I mean, here, for example, I'm doing the work here. And for 5 years, nobody have showed up in my door asking me what you have done, so that we can replicate those
really?
techniques or those things. Because this is the only productive site in this, I would say, in this village.
Oh, really? So it's not just about installing a gazillion check dams. It's also about talking with the communities and providing them with adequate terrains for their needs, so they can grow the roses and sell the rose petals, grow the goats and sell goat products, or eat goat products, and make sure that they are very much integrated. And that's what you say. 10% is permaculture or regeneration stuff, and then 90% is people stuff. It's, I think, 100% true. That's also what we see from the projects that we design. How important that is to get the people on board. So, a question for you, Mohammed. If, for example, the king would appoint you and say, Mohammed, choose one river and go for it. Here's my credit card. You have unlimited funds to do it. That would be probably a very easy way to do it. Let's say the king doesn't appoint you, and you would take the own initiative, for example, and say, all right, I've just located the ideal river, or future river, because it's not a river yet, or it's only a river for a couple of days or weeks per year, and say, okay, look, I'm just gonna do everything I can to restore this river. You go and talk with the villages, you go and sell them your vision and say, look, if we do this, this and that, and make these check dams together. Is this something you could take your own initiative, or do you need to get permits and need to have a lot of red tape and bureaucratic stuff?
Well, actually, we have started it already in a very, very small scale. We are very active in a region called Bulman. Those people have shown a lot of they have taken the initiative. Our association have worked a lot in that area, and we gained trust. We gained our credibility in front of those people. So that's where we have established the first small check dam, and we have restored 2 or 3 springs. They've been dried out since 2007, and the buzz and the word have spread over the province. So now, as I told you, we are working on the second check dam. It's a different technique. I'm just waiting for one of the engineers so that he can go with me next week. That's the issue with the bureaucracy. In India, it was different. India has a decentralized governance system. If the state how we call them, chief minister, the state chief minister said something, so it's gonna be done immediately and quickly. State chief minister. So here it is different. You have to get different permits from the watershed office, and if you are working with the forestry department as well. But we have to work smart, right? So anything that needs permit, we are not going to do it. Anything that would be in the land of the forestry department, we are not going to do it. So we will tackle all those areas where it's easier to work. So we are establishing a Gabion check dam with a capacity
Mhm.
of almost like 20,000 cubic meter, which will recharge springs and wells that have been dried for several years now, and that would provide water for 100 hectares for the local community. This
Wow.
community has shown a lot of readiness. They have planted, I believe, 50,000 fruit tree, and yeah, that's what I'm working on at right now. If I would
But
decide in one of the region, it would be Sebo, Sebou River Basin, because we have already people there, and that's one of the most important watersheds that we have in rivers, watershed that we have in the country. Inshallah, I have a big hope. I have a dream that one day we can achieve the same thing, whether with the
Mhm.
I'm not waiting for the help of anyone. I believe that there are so many people out there, they want to help, but they need just with whom they can work. You would walk, you would keep going, whether there are people involved or not. That's the beauty of anyone who's doing something that he likes the most. For example, no one would stop you from doing podcasts because maybe this is the thing that you prefer doing the most, whether there are other people out there helping you or not, but you would insist
Mhm.
to do it day and night. So it's the same thing with that, because we've seen the potential. And we used to say in Arabic, the one who's seen is believing, if I would translate it.
Yeah.
When you see something that happened on the ground, it's difficult to deliver it to
To
people.
ignore it.
You have to establish something that they see it so that they are involved. And that's one of the main things that's the best lesson that I learned from Tarun Bharat Sangh is local community involvement. Yeah. Hopefully that we can all work on that water shed
Mhm.
system, whether with the government help, whether with the private entities or individuals, because all the money that we are using now is just from individual.
Yeah. But even if just like villagers see that by just planting one check dam, you can already make a stream flow again, or like make a well or a source come back. That's incredible, because how many villagers aren't there that the well has dried up and they want the well coming back? And then if they, from some reason, find out, wow, look here, it's super simple. They done it. We can do it in an afternoon, let's say, with all our people from the village, and bring a lot of bags of earth or sand or rocks or whatever that needs to be done. It can be done pretty quick, right? If the right motivation is there, no?
Yes, people need just to see it, and that's what happened with the first structure we put together. Man, after the first rain event, after a month and a half, waters start coming out of a spring that had no water for 10, 3, 17 years.
Wow.
That's incredible. All people in the region have heard about that. They start coming, they start visiting the site, and now it's just a matter of time before we get into that area. Actually, I'm planning to start teaching water harvesting technique. It's not about only building big water structure. You can teach people how to build just trenches of 3 meters of length, 60 centimeters width, and 60 centimeters deep, and you can make thousands of those. They would help
Yeah.
recharging aquifers. They would help bringing back hydrology of any given site.
It made me think about these books that I'm just gonna show you right now. The ones of Brad Lancaster, like rainwater harvesting. It reminds me of what you just told me. Are those like these techniques?
Well, we are speaking about the same thing. I have Brad's books. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Water harvesting is same language all over the world. The only difference is how to choose what is most adequate for any given circumstances or context. If you have a slope of more than 7% what needs to be applied, or less than 5% what it needs to be applied. If you have a big watershed, what it needs to be done. If you have erosion, if you have a gully, if you have and I'm thankful to my experience in India, because those folks have given us the opportunity to implement anything that we have learned in the design, whether in the designer's manual or with Jeff. It was incredible. So that's why the accumulation of 10 years of practice, it was incredible with those folks. So now you have a clear idea about what it needs to be done. We believe that pollution in permaculture is accumulation of unused resource, and even informations could be pollution if it's not used. We can accumulate whatever knowledge you can think of, but if it's not applied, that's just, sorry to say that, it's pollution too.
It's 100% true. And I often say to people, like, I've written a couple of books about regenerative farming and regenerative food forestry. And I often say to the people, I'd rather have you burn my book and just plant some trees and just learn it to learn it. And you see so many people around the world who are like brilliant and they keep on learning stuff. But I'm always then wondering, okay, but when are you going to start doing something with that knowledge? Because knowledge not used, I love it that you call it pollution, because it's a kind of pollution that you have all this knowledge. It's kind of polluting your mind because you're not doing anything with it. So yeah, we need more doers.
Exactly.
What's the biggest failure you ever had in landscape design, done by yourself or by other people?
Man, I have a lot of failures, but I don't call them failures. I call them just a step forward to make it better. So I had this project in northeast of Morocco, and I was trying to implement a very complicated system called spade system. It worked, honestly, and I connected a huge gully that is bringing water, a lot of water from a huge watershed above, and to allow it to enter the farm so that we can rehydrate the farm. It worked, actually. From a theoretical perspective, as an idea, it worked, but sometimes you have to know your limit. And that taught me to learn limits within engineering. The idea worked, but from an engineering perspective, I could have consulted with an engineer who would recommend what kind of dimensions to work with that wall that I'm putting. So the idea is to put a wall in a gully that's bringing water, and to enter it to the system that you want to irrigate or you want to store water in. So yeah, that was a big eye-opening, and I knew that I have to start consulting with other specialized people in their field.
And what happened? Did you flood the farm?
No. The system have worked just fine. The water entered to the first well, from the first well to the second well to the third well, and water went to the dam, and it started going outside again to the gully. But what happened is that water was big. The volume of water was huge. It just washed the wall, the gabions tied it together. But it was incredible. It was incredible experience. I had tears in my eyes when I saw water entering the system and getting outside. And the idea worked, but it needed engineering expertise.
Yeah, you need to know when to call a hydrologist or an engineer or somebody with more knowledge. I know the feeling.
Yeah. And there are others that you learn from, choosing, especially with the natural building. All the structures here in my farm are naturally built. We use adobe and we use rocks. I learned a lot with plastering and a lot of things. I made all the mistakes in the house where I'm living today. We learned all the mistakes, so yeah, it's fine now.
Yeah, it's good that you look at it that way. Being a designer or being a food forester or a permaculturist or a regenerative farmer, you have an interesting roller coaster with a lot of ups, a lot of downs, and everything in between. How do you first of all, stay grounded and inspired while working in places that are so complex on the technical side, but also to live in a world that is pretty complex, with wars going on, with pollution, with too much pesticides. How do you stay grounded?
Well, Bill Mollison have put it in a very brutal way. He said, anger can fuel you to achieve greatness, or can fuel you to send you to the jail. So anger, I think, being being angry against what is going on, and so if you are angry, yeah, that's good. But how you are going to change what is going on in your level. So if you travel to, and you are right, sometimes you go into sites where there is nothing, and you are telling yourself, "What the hell I'm doing here?" It's 45, sometimes 48 outside, and there is nobody around, and it's tough, it's eroded, the food is terrible, but you have to do it. You have to do it. If it's not you, who would do it? And at the same time, you keep hope. You keep hope that you might do something that would benefit those people, and they can learn from, and other would replicate what are you doing.
Yeah. So basically, try to get as angry as you can, but don't use that anger to do things that might have you ended up in jail. But use your anger to be constructive and say, "Screw that! We're gonna do it differently, and I'm gonna do everything I can and channel this anger to just keep on punching through walls and keep on moving stones to build check dams or to plant trees or."
Well, exactly. You want to be part of the solution rather than being part of the problem. And I think do this type of work is one of the best ways to be part of the solution and show gratitude for the fact that you are here, that you are today in this planet Earth.
Yeah, gratefulness is something very powerful. It's one of, I don't know who said it, but one person said that if you could say one prayer every day, it should be thank you. And I totally agree with that, because if you're grateful with the things that are already there, then those are things you can build further on. We already explored anger. Anger can help you, but sometimes you see anger, but you also see the other side of the emotional spectrum, and that is fear or sadness. And that's some, like, anger like motivates you to do stuff, and mostly fear and sadness like demotivates you to do stuff and makes you shrink and makes you paralyzed. So how do you deal with sadness and with fear if you look at the state of this planet? How do you deal with that?
Well, that's one of the, to be honest, wow, I have goosebumps when you said that. That's one of the positive of one of the advantages of being a believer, because you keep hope for that things would change, and if you have fear, you just ask for more powerful source to take away that fear from your heart. Yeah, this is how I see it, because I'm a loser if it was only for me. It was only if it wasn't for a higher power. I'm speaking frankly about Allah, about God. If it wasn't like that, I don't know how I would deal with it, because it's really, really scary, and it's really, really difficult. And I don't know. I don't know how people deal with it in differently. I'm curious to know, honestly. So that's my case.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful that you found something that's bigger than yourself. And if you like open the news, watch television, and you're bombarded with a lot of sadness going on in the world, and it's logical that you would like lock yourself in the cupboard and don't want to come out. But it's nice that you say, well, we have something bigger out there that's giving me hope and giving me strength. So glad that works for you. That's amazing. What helps me is when I see just that the resilience of the earth, and you may call it a god, or you may call it something bigger or universal. It doesn't matter how you want to call it, But if you just like see that if you put a seed in the ground and the plant grows, no matter what's going on in the world, or if you plant a tree, no matter like how many wars that are going on, it gives apples after a couple of years. Those are things that how fearful you might be, that apple is gonna give you that tree is gonna give you apples, and that's also something magical in action, I find, and something very hope-giving.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That's very powerful.
If you would have a magic wand and you could like do whatever you want with that wand, what would it be? You could really do anything on this planet or in your neighborhood or village or wherever you want.
Man, that's a question that I didn't expect.
What's the first thing that pops into your mind?
Well, the first thing is poverty. Poverty with with precaution. Poverty is poverty and ignorance. I'd like to teach people and you know about how to gain their spirituality first, and then we can, if you have an army that is well educated and healthy, you can do anything you want with it, rehabilitating landscape, planting water, planting trees, eradicating poverty. That would be much easier.
So if you had a magic wand, you would create a regeneration army.
Oh yeah, man. You know what's the budget for environment worldwide? It's $1 billion. And you know what is the budget for military around the world for 1 year? It's $200 billion. So if they stop wars and everything just for 1 year, we are gaining 200 years of rehabilitation work. Man, give me the damn money and we can just reshape the landscape, and we can, man. So yeah, it is what it is.
Like a good plan.
I don't think that would happen one day. Pardon?
Sounds like a good plan. Just say to all the people fighting in wars, let's say, okay, let's just have a break of only 1 year. Like,
let's have a
all
truce. Truce for 1 year.
Shoot the hell out of everybody again, but like only after 1 year. Like first plant the damn trees and then start shooting again. Oh
yeah, man. But hopefully that those things, over the years, and by the way, Jeff Lawton speaking about the tipping point from a book by Malcolm Gladwell called The Tipping Point. We need maximum 11%. That's what we need to make a huge change, within any given group. He's been studying groups and changes and dynasties and civilizations, and you need only 10 to 12% of the whole populations or any given group or community to make a big change. Yeah, we need just to convince 10 to 12%. That's all.
Yeah. How are we going to do that, Mohammed?
By being a living example, by doing it ourselves. I don't think that there is something that would never lead that to happen, is to stay in the back and asking other people to change. Anything that you want other people to do, you just take a lead. Jeff Lawton, when he did his first with Bill Mollison, he was taking notes, and after 5 years, he was going back to his notes, and he found a phrase that he wrote: if you don't do it yourself in your area, there is nobody else would do it. So he just did it, and you see Jeff Lawton what he is today. So if we can do just part of what Jeff have done, that would change things. If every students of Jeff, for example, establish 10 sites maybe and have an influence on a group of people, we are speaking again about dendritic pattern. Jeff, students
Yes.
and students, from villagers to farmers to people to students to. So yeah, hopefully that things will change.
That's beautiful. And I love how the dendritic pattern has come up several times during our talk. So the pattern is there. Yeah, well,
yeah, man, it's deep. It's very deep subject, and honestly, to see pattern and to bring pattern into your discussion, I think one of the keys to learn about it is to be actually in the field, because it's everywhere. It's just there everywhere. You see it, you live with it. Yeah. Oh,
yeah, well,
man, we have It's 1 hour and a half already.
Time goes fast as when you're having fun. And yeah, well, I love that you've been so inspired by Jeff Lawton. Me, the same. It was my big inspiration when I started with permaculture, and then like after like I don't know, maybe 10 years, and finally saved enough money to also go to Jordan and follow the PDC. It was really a dream come true, and learn with him. Saw the fantastic place he created. Like you say, I also done my share. I did more than 10 designs already. Probably, I think, more than 100, teaching other people via courses we give, and also like having now students that say, oh, we also did some restoration projects. So it's the dendritic pattern that keeps on going back. So Mohammed, it's been so nice to talk with you, and I have the feeling that there is so much possible. We need this army of regenerators, so let's keep in touch to see how we can create that army. And I love with leading by example, because that's something that we forget so many times. Like I get so pissed about pesticide usage and whatever. And then something else, I think, okay, but how can we do that? And it always comes back, okay, but are you showing the example? Are you buying everything pesticide free? Are you growing your own foods? Stuff like that. Or are you having a terrain where you're growing a food forest, if you're like talking about food forests all day? And the same with peace. Like you're always complaining about the war, but how peaceful are you? Can you shake hands with everybody and look everybody in the eyes? So I think that's a powerful reminder, but also very empowering, because a lot of people are so fearless about the future of the world and about all the things macro that's going on. But then if you go back and look micro again and say, okay, but what can I change in my circle of influence? What can I purchase, or who can I talk to, or which farmer can I visit nearby and exchange or buy something from that farmer? Then it's like, okay, but have you checked all the boxes that you can do for yourself? Okay, now start worrying about the news.
Right. Nicely put together, honestly. Yeah, that's pretty very profound.
Before we wrap up this podcast, Mohammed, is there anything else you would like to share with our listeners? Some last words of wisdom?
Sorry, I just asked the guy to stop knocking on the rocks. We are building a pizza oven.
Right. Ready.
Just listen to yourself, and because our instinct is always telling us about the truth. There is nothing so deep, so true, so honest, so pure, so transparent as our instinct. And always our instinct is telling us to do the right thing. And that's what came first, because that knowledge go back to all where humanity have came from. But when you start using your mind and all that stuff, that's where you make mistakes. We need more people. We need more people to get involved with what we are doing. We need more regenerative pioneers. We need more people who believe that this is how we can solve part of the problem that is going on around the world. And it was a pleasure talking to you, and hopefully we can discuss maybe another time.
With pleasure, Mohammed. Super nice to have you here, and see you very soon. Thanks for listening to the Food Forest podcast. Yeah, I'm so energized by talking to Mohammed. It's been so nice, and I'd like you to invite to the next episode next week, but also to go to the website foodforestpodcast.com to check the show notes. Also find links to Mohammed's work and to the things we're doing, designing, teaching, and inspiration. Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.